Welcome to episode 107 of Enter the Mind podcast, the most real talk, no nonsense podcast on the empowering of the mind. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about the question of what does it mean to be influenced or manipulated, and how do we know when we're being manipulated? Before we get to that, Kyra, how are you today?
I am stressed to the bone, but I look pretty and I'm ready to take on the rest of the day. What about you?
Love it. That's a champion answer. Yeah. Uh, I'll have to say the same thing. This morning I went for a jog and I hadn't jogged in a week, so I was a little tired and less conditioned, but I ran as far as I could, and so I'm going to take that as a win, even though it's not as far as I normally run. It's not about the either or. It's about what's the best option at the time, right?
Yes, I love that. I love that.
Yeah. So, on to this question. What comes to mind first for you when we ask, how do you know if someone is manipulating you?
Well, over the years, I feel like manipulation is either you could feed into somebody's ego and manipulate them to do the things that you want them to do by getting to their ego. You can be manipulated and influenced and brainwashed by people who have like different purposes than you. So like you can know if you're being manipulated if like somebody's like trying to get you to see things in their way and you feel like really 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 uncomfortable. Like you may feel like it's wrong, you may feel prickles all over your body, you may get like a psyche attack. There's definitely multiple ways that people can manipulate you. I feel like, yeah, that's a super broad question, but what do you have?
Well, something you said just made me think of this example, and it's going to sound so trivial and minor, but I think it's kind of funny. It's like, even as recent as just several years ago, when I go to a store, if a person who works at the store is like helping me, like shoes, right there, um, they're going to the back, they're pulling my size, I'm trying on the shoe or whatever. I feel like a pressure to buy it, and even if I don't want it, I would buy it with the intention of returning to the store a couple days later and exchanging or returning the items. But I would buy it just because I didn't want to upset the person who is like doing all the work and selling it to me. And I think that was a point of personal development for myself to, in the last couple of years, be comfortable with being like, hey, I appreciate all, you going to the back and pulling all these sizes. It's just, none of them are jiving with me today. So I got to come back at another time. And the assertiveness of that, even when I knew that they wanted me to buy it, and knowing that they might be upset if I didn't buy it, like, I don't know, I just think like I feel better now that I'm comfortable putting up the wall to anyone who's trying to get me to do a certain thing. I have to just ask myself, is this good for me? Right?
I really love that because if you take it into number one, I'm kind of exactly the same way. I've been getting better too at that, but what I really like is that you can take it as well into information. So it's like, people are trying to, so like as Grant says, it's like sell or be sold. We're selling something every day, and either we're buying somebody else's point of view, or they're buying our point of view. So there are definitely a bunch of times where I've bought into, somebody's point of view only to throw it back up later. I'm like, I don't want this, I'm returning it. Because I didn't want it in the first place. I only bought it because I didn't want to create friction between us. I was afraid. It's like pessimism. It's like detrimental pessimism. I mean, what was it called in Drake and Josh when he's scared of fighting?
I have no
Pacifist.
idea what Drake and oh,
Pacifist. So it's like detrimental
okay.
pacifism. Um, because it's
Ooh,
like,
wait, hang on. We need to pause there. That's a really nice word there, or term, I should say. Detrimental pacifism. I
Yeah,
love that. All right, keep going, keep going. That was really good. That was really cool.
I like it. Okay, so yeah, so it's like we're almost like afraid to not agree with somebody. So like we always kind of buy into, it's like if they don't buy into what we're buying, we automatically feel like we have to buy into what they're buying, to what they're selling because they're not buying what we're selling. Did that make sense?
Here's Yeah, now here's a question. If I wake up in the morning and I'm feeling like no motivation and I go to YouTube and I Google Tony Robbins motivational video and I
Yeah.
watch that, am I trying to get that video to manipulate me, but just in a good way? Can manipulation be good?
There's definitely good manipulation. Like when people say like, "Oh, that person really knows how to manipulate the room." It's like in a good way, but also I really just don't like the word manipulate in general. Like you can influence the room, in like a nice way, but like I don't know, the whole positive manipulation thing, I'm not sure how I feel about that one yet.
What I was trying to do was connect this to what you're saying about how manipulation is happening all the time. And I think that's very true. Like, if you walk one day on planet Earth, like you are uh, constantly being acted upon by outside forces. First of all, you walk, even if you're by yourself, gravity is exerting a force on you, right? Holding you to the earth. But as soon as you uh, enter other people into the picture, then now they have intentions and they have motives and they might have a certain desire for you. But to me, the question of like, oh, well, are they manipulating me or are they not? It's like no matter whether they are or aren't, we always need to be on guard for the way that our environment is interacting with us.
Definitely agreed. Um, I was at the Washington State Fair. There were these women who were selling hair tools, and the one girl called me over. She said, "Hey, you want to come to your booth? Come to our booth?" And I was like, "I have to go to my booth really quick. I'll be right back." And once I said that, I swear to you, I thought I was imagining things, but the girl looked at me like this. And so I came back to the booth, right, as I said I would, and the other girl was busy, so I got helped by another girl. Now, this girl was kind of nicer, a little bit, and then later on, I was having a conversation with the same girl, and I look up, and the girl who gave me a dirty look earlier is looking at me again, like this. And I was like, "What's going on here?" So keep listening.
Face of
So
disappointment.
it wasn't even disappointment. So listen, because I knew that I felt something. So I go and I'm having a conversation with the girl, and the manager comes over, and I go, "Oh, you're the manager?" And she goes, "Yeah, I'm the manager." And I was like, "Okay." And then she whispered something in the worker's ear, and they both turned away from me when I was in like a 7-minute conversation with the girl. So far, I've gotten two dirty looks, a weird manager, and I was left from a conversation. So I go and I talk to my friends, and I say, "Those girls at the hair booth, they're kind of rude, right?" And she goes, "Oh my God, I had an experience with them. So they feed your ego." And what they do is, so the girl was going to buy a straightener, and it was like $300 or something. So she paused and like she thought about it. And the guy who was doing her hair was like, "I knew you couldn't afford it." And she was like, "Bitch, I
That's
can't
pretty
afford it. You
funny.
need to." Right? So it's like these
Oh,
people are literally manipulating people, making people feel unwanted, making people feel not good enough, making people feel like they don't belong. And people who are ego driven will feed into that. And they'll be like, "Please, I want your love. Like, I need your attention. I need you to accept me." And so that is a heavy form of manipulation for sure.
okay. Now I see the connection now between what you said at the very, very beginning, which was you mentioned the ego when I
Yeah.
said manipulation, and you mentioned the ego. So now this makes sense, and that's kind of really interesting because I love to make these comparisons between life and a chessboard. And if someone's playing chess and a heckler comes up to you and is like, you know, you're a bad chess player, you don't have enough practice, this that, like, it's very clear that that's completely irrelevant to what's going on the board, where the pieces are, what moves are available, and what the best move would be. Anything related to the ego is completely irrelevant to the movement and the advancement on the board.
Yeah. 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 I feel you. Like, your ego isn't going to win the game. I mean, your ego might win the game.
Yeah, but also, this reminds me then of also Michael Jordan and his documentary, because there are so many examples of where his ego kind of like took a hit and he used that as fuel to come back. Like some other
Yeah.
coach walked like the coach of the other team saw him at a dinner uh, out in the city or something the night before a game. The other coach walked past him, didn't say hello, right? Michael Jordan took that as like an offense, like, hey, like I'm the best player in the NBA and he didn't like recognize me. He didn't say hi. He didn't come shake my hand or something. He just walked past like I don't exist. He took that as fuel in the next game, the following night when he played that team, that coach's team, he demolished them. And he went up to that coach and he said, don't ever walk past me, in a restaurant again or something like that. Right. Don't quote me on, but that was the pattern of many times he did something like that. Did you find at least one gold nugget in today's episode? Then please like and subscribe and share it with a friend. And finally, if you're looking for a community of like-minded people, join our free Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/enterthemind.